Some call it the very first major accident in aviation history. This week, we're going to break down the who's, the why's, the where's. So much detail, you're going to explode. It's the Hindenburg, and it's going down this week on Nothing Good.
Another episode of Nothing Good. I'm your host, Herb Jones. I'm joined here with the other hosts, the other co-hosts. We got Mr. Brown here to my left, straight in front of me, Mac. And
What's up, everybody?
Left. I've never really asked you on the air, Jeff. Do you want? I don't think I've only called. I think I've called you Jafar like twice.
It's a very small, minimal number. Yeah.
That I don't.
We've never had that thing.
I don't think
it's more over here.
It's not a thing that I would ever call you.
Really, I think Jafar I think is only Jeff. I think really he's is only Noah. I think Noah's the only one who really calls him
It is,
that.
yeah.
So what do you want to be called on the air? I mean, you got Mac, you got Mr. Brown, you got Doc. What do you use?
Jeff or Jafar is fine.
It's funny though. I don't want to.
Dutch motherfucker.
Dutch motherfucker is definitely one of them that I've called him.
I've been called that a lot.
Adam Jefferson sometimes too.
I don't want to be that guy, but you actually have had this conversation with Jafar on the air previously.
Good, because I feel like I did.
I want to say it was the Hybrid Theory episode, Jafar's first appearance.
Probably.
And you're like, I
don't feel comfortable calling you that.
Yeah. So here we are again, second season. That's a storyline. But just every time we do a new season, you're like, by the way, who are you?
Why are you here?
What?
And what should I call you?
I like Linkin Park.
Do you?
I do.
It's their
Yeah,
band.
They're pretty good.
Band. They're really good.
Yeah, not bad.
I got to listen to that episode when I was shoveling my driveway with like 14 inches of snow.
Then we did our job.
Yeah, got me through.
Got you
me
there.
through.
Got you there.
So
Yeah.
we started
You're welcome.
over
No.
From when I...
No.
Was the recording?
Oh yeah.
Well, what the fuck?
We're not, no take backs. I'll give back. The only reason we stop recording is if I say a joke that's just too over the line. And considering we started with the Hindenburg, last week we went to Steve Austin's domestic abuse claims, Vince McMahon's non-disclosure
And
agreements,
a lot of vagina.
then no, we're still rolling. And you know what's rolling? Season 2 of the show.
So-
ladies and
Oh,
gentlemen.
right off and
We
running.
haven't crashed and burned yet.
Not
See what I did
yet.
there?
Oh.
See what I did there?
Oh.
Okay, Hindenburg, too soon? Because I don't think so.
No, I suppose not.
No.
Listen, Rick and Morty's doing 9/11 jokes, so I don't think the Hindenburg's too soon.
Okay. Well, so Hindenburg, a fair game for anyone keeping score at home. But welcome back to the show, everybody.
Welcome.
And just the season 2 was wonderful and kicked off last week with Hell in a Cell, King of the Ring, rather. Again, I did it. We're even done with the show, and I'm still doing it.
You wonder why I was so confused getting ready for that episode.
I wonder all kinds.
I was so confused. King of the Ring. I'm like, I can't find Hell in a Cell here, guys.
So, we started season 1 with a film review, and now we've started season 2 with a movie review. So I think season 3 needs to start next in some year from now.
Season 2 is a wrestling
Well,
review.
who gives a shit? I'm not paying attention. See, I'm not deleting this. You got to
not
deal
a
with this.
movie.
We're all feeling it. I don't care. You know what? It is
how
a
much-
movie. It was the movie that played
How
on
much
all of our
How
hearts.
much Top Gun have you been
What
going
is
down
happening
lately?
right now?
So much.
We are off the rails, people.
We are, but the film that played it for last week was Mick Foley's life story. The Mick Foley, How We Barely Knew You, and it was in our hearts.
That was not a good save.
No, hey,
Forever,
not
though.
everything is
Good
gold.
job.
Okay,
Yeah. You tried.
sometimes listen. Some of these jokes have to be the white rice that helps accompany the delicious general so's of offensive humor that comes later. Okay.
I do brown rice, like your last name.
No, very
Oh,
nice.
there
Who
it
does
is.
brown rice with General Tso's?
I do brown rice with pretty much everything.
Okay.
It's weird.
We are off the rails. What are we talking about? Who are we?
let's
What
talk
is
about-
this?
Say it's weird? What's weird about brown
It's
rice?
weird. No, with certain
everything?
foods. Yeah, everything. Like that's your blanket statement?
No,
Brown
for like,
rice?
I mean, white rice isn't as healthy for you.
It's not.
No.
So brown rice is
way
healthier. So unless I'm going to do fried rice, which I probably would do that over the other two.
Well, if you're worried
fried
about
brown,
health,
then
you're
white.
not eating General Tso's chicken.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's so
That's
so
a
good.
valid
It's
point.
so good though.
But let's reel this back in a little bit.
Back to the Hindenburg.
As much as
like
we can.
6 different directions all at once. We're talking about one, in my opinion, one of the greatest video games ever made.
Oh yeah, I would agree with that.
We're talking Bioshock Infinite.
Bioshock.
Now, I don't expect anybody who will be listening to this episode, maybe a few of you have played Bioshock Infinite. If you haven't, please do. You can listen to this. Well, actually, really don't listen to this episode. You haven't.
No, because we're 5 minutes away from spoiling the whole thing for you. So pause it right now. If Doc or any of us carry enough weight with you to say that this is an incredible game, stop what you're doing right now and go play the game, then do it. Come back. We'll be here. We're not going anywhere. You literally can't get rid of us. So there it is. Unless you're Mac.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been fun. Enjoy the episode. I got to go finish playing the game. So
Mac, in 200 words or less, why don't you tell the viewers? Because Jafar, Doc, and I played the game again and beat it. But why don't you tell the viewers how far you got, and then we'll take it from there before we crush dreams.
I'm really just kind of in the beginning of the game. It was difficult being able to get the time scheduled with a number of things going on in the personal life to be able to sit down and get the time in. But I'm really in the beginning of the game. I'm in the Blue Ribbon restaurant. That's about where. Yeah, I'm in the dining room and everything, and that's about where I hit save. So
and put the controller down and never picked it up again.
Well, well, not necessarily not picking it up again. I didn't play it on its original go through.
No.
Listen, gamers, especially with the more recent titles, I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat this because they're going to give me shit for it. So might as well get ahead of it. With the later systems, I'm in a backlog of games. So, when Bioshock Infinite came out, I didn't buy it right away because I had a bunch of games that I had picked up, and I'm not going to, working at the toy store and everything at that time, I was going to spend $60, $70 on a game. I'm just going to...
You had 9 years to play it.
Listen.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm just going to go ahead. Before you listen your way in, I just want to say that this backlog of game, yes. Okay. Before you talk about this backlog of games like it's a semi-new thing, how long have we been friends? 20 years?
20 years.
20 years.
Yeah.
20 years. There's been a backlog of games for 20 years. You're like, oh, I haven't got to that one yet. I'm just looking to get a PlayStation or an Xbox One. An Xbox, the first Xbox. You're like, I'll get to that when I get one. Halo 2, what? Not now. It's been 20 years. That backlog. Now, I respect that you do still chop away at this log, but to imply that this backlog isn't anything like a recent development. Oh, recently I haven't had time. Like, motherfucker, you invented the queue list before Spotify was even a thing.
Listen,
okay?
When I say recent thing, I don't mean like this just happened over the last couple of years. I mean that this is a last generation or two type deal. Because
since you graduated high school.
Past that. Oh, you fucker. That was not where I thought you were going. I thought you were going to give me a little bit more credit. No, it was, GameCube and Xbox One, or the original Xbox, was probably the last time that I was really up on it. Mm-hmm. And then, interests kind of shifted. I got more into the acting, more into the filmmaking stuff. Those are not hobbies that are easy on time.
They're time eaters, yeah.
They are time eaters. We go to a lot of Penguin games. That's another big time eater. So, and then I sleep. So, but yeah. So when I say more recent, I mean we're talking like the Xbox 360 generation, and to an extent the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, that world. So that's where my backlog is really kind of setting in right now. So Bioshock, Xbox 360, that's where I got it for. Just, not had the opportunity to kind of get to it. Plus, I didn't really want to play it out of order. I wanted to kind of get through the first two Bioshocks before I got to the third one.
They're unrelated.
Well, I know that now.
They do make a attempt to tie them all
slight
together,
reference.
but that's not.
Yeah.
That does not.
No, I know. I love the original Bioshock, and second one was
that game's so good,
pretty good.
Excuse me. Would you kindly is such a great twist.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I have a confession. I think I may have mentioned this to you guys before, or at least I know in personal conversations, but to the audience, we're going to talk, about Infinite in some pretty good granular detail. However, I've never finished a Bioshock game outside of that one.
Really?
It just, the games, they did not do anything for me. I borrowed the first one from a buddy of mine, and I didn't like it. I just didn't, it's just like, it felt not boring, it just wasn't fast-paced.
They were drudgy. They were drudgy until the battles got too, yeah.
But I didn't play them long enough to get to that point.
No.
However, tying this back to this damn game, I remember seeing the trailer the first time, holy shit! Look, like the rail combat, and I'm just like, I'm sitting there watching this on my computer because it was on YouTube on my computer, not my phone, and just being totally blown away with what I'm looking at.
Yep.
I had never seen combat quite like that before, and my having never completed it, I think between the two Bioshock games, I probably put in 4 hours between the two, like maximum. I even tried playing.
So
Bioshock
you never got to
recently.
the big twist in the first Bioshock game.
I actually tried last year. I'm like, you know what, Bioshock, they always tell me it's a really good game. I'm just going to play it, and I still couldn't. I think I might have played a little longer than the first go around, but I'm like, this just isn't for me, which sucks because I know they're good games.
Yeah, it starts slow, but I mean, visually, just the whole idea of Rapture and how they built that entire world. I mean, it was revolutionary for the time.
It was, and just to add on to where you were going with that, I think it was interesting because right in that generation, in that 2006, 2007, 2008 era of games, you started to see a split in first-person shooters to where Modern Warfare 2, and Halo, and they all went here, fast-paced, massively multiplayer, we're going in this direction, and the games that were the predecessors, even the first Halo to a certain extent, but like Wolfenstein, some of the Doom, right, like Bethesda games, they're like, you know what, we're going to slow the brakes down and tell story over mass content. And I think Bioshock was a great idea of that because the game doesn't. It's a first-person shooter, but in a lot of ways, it doesn't play like one.
Nope.
You know. So no, for sure. But so you got that far. We will probably bust your balls, but not too much. Because honestly, it is a big thing. And
well, so you know, and I'll get in my defense a little bit here too. There is so much. No, hold on. There's so much to see once you get to Columbia, once you get into that world. Like, I didn't want to just, I mean, they're directing you where to go and things like that. I didn't want to just cheat and, like, just blow through the game.
It's not the type of game you want to speed run.
No, I didn't want to speed run. No. So I wanted to take an opportunity to really, like, look around, check out the different stuff, explore as much as you can and everything. Just really take it in, You don't just go ahead and blow your load on wedding night. You take... Well, no, actually you do because you're really tired and you want to just go to bed afterwards. But you get the idea. I didn't want this to be my wedding night. I wanted to just have a nice, romantic, journey with this.
So, Matt, you brought up an interesting point, I think. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I feel really strongly. If you played the game, and Matt, since you... There's a difference between... And I'm a little jealous to a point, because I knew what to expect. There's a couple points in the game I completely forgot things happened.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, shit, this goes on? But for the most part, I remembered everything, and, I streamlined my playthroughs. I didn't really do a whole lot of exploring, because there's only so many times I'm going to look through, a random shelf for a can of beans to get myself health. But anyhow, video games.
Gotta get the salts, man.
Fucking salts.
Salts and protein.
That's right.
The one thing that Irrational Games does really well, at least in the Bioshock games, I don't know what other games they've made beyond them. I'm not even sure.
That's a great question for somebody who did more research into that department.
I have no clue, actually.
I have no idea.
Really
I'm sorry. Our listeners couldn't see. I looked at Jafar, who gave me them. I didn't fucking do that.
I actually don't know. I know they made them, but they're really good at making the backdrop, the environment, a character.
The world feels alive.
And so
it feels absolutely alive.
Whereas Bioshock, and with my limited playthrough the first two, was very drab and very dreary and very hopeless.
Yeah, because you couldn't see far because it's murky water.
Yeah, but you could see the aftermath of what had gone on.
Yeah.
So, because I have this thing called the Internet, gentlemen, I wanted to answer your question. What other games they did? Fucking nothing.
Because they didn't have to.
They need to. Made up money.
As Irrational Games, System Shock 2, Freedom Force, Tribes Vengeance, Freedom Force versus the Third Reich, SWAT 4, and then right into Bioshock. And then when they got into 2K Boston, Bioshock.
Yeah.
So
absorbed and
they
moved
had
on, probably.
Monster Island, The Lost, Freedom Force, Deep Cover, those are all canceled games. And an untitled Bioshock game for PlayStation Vita. So, no, Bioshock for them, that's kind of strange.
Well,
yeah, 2K, they
2K.
got absorbed by 2K.
Yeah.
And, I mean, they announced in 2019 that they were making a Bioshock 4, but Irrational was not involved. They were giving it to another developer.
So Ken Levine's he's not attached to it?
Then
I don't want to play it.
Not unless he's going to be brought in. Now, there's a long time Because if anything, that's one of the great games that we've had in the last 10 years have told us. I mean, Red Dead Redemption 2 was in development for 7 years, right?
Forever.
Like, active development. That's enough time for someone to come aboard whenever, the executive's like, I don't like where this game is going, let's bring Levine back in. Yeah. And then they can do, there's a lot of time, so wait until the game is out and it's been patched before you decide if I'm going to refuse to play the game. That's huge. That's like 24. Like, oh, yeah. I hope you have an extra 124 gigabytes left on your hard drive, because fuck you. That's why.
So the point I was making is that this game has so many environments that give very different feelings, right? You start the game, and I'm not really interested in going step by step, beat by beat, but like just the backdrop, right? You're on this boat. You just come to, but more importantly, where is it at? Where did I write it down? The mind of the subject will desperately struggle to create memories where none exist. And the first time you played, that shit doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
It makes zero sense.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
But holy shit, does it come the fuck together?
It does.
Yeah,
And,
it just sounds creepy on the front end.
Yeah. And I apologize. I'm going to use air quotes, and the listener is not going to be able to tell what I'm doing, and Dave's also not going to know. But the Lukeet twins, or the twins,
yeah.
right? Ushering you there. You have no idea what's going on. They're just serving there, and then almost David Lynch kind of bothering you, just creep you out enough to creep you and keep you guessing, while they're just laying it down as you go to the first of what would be many lighthouses in this game, all which important.
But you do not know.
No, which is really cool. Which is cool because when you get there, like, oh, lighthouse, Bioshock starts with a lighthouse, right? And here we go. But no, you don't know. You don't know. I don't know.
And
Dave doesn't know.
Because I'm just at one lighthouse.
So,
yeah.
So you're having this experience,
for now,
right? Like, and you're like seeing this all for the first time. And you're like, oh, you're on this boat. You got these people. They're talking. I don't know what's going on. They leave you on the shoreline. Let's just go up and you go and get in this machine. And somebody was murdered. There's bad things happening. You get in this machine, and everything changes. It goes from this dark and shadowy lighthouse. You're confused to this beautiful, like the cathedral, the music, the sounds, the lighting, everything was just like giving you this vibe, like, what is this place? What's going on in here?
It literally feels like an ascension, because it is.
Yeah. You are.
But before we do,
yes,
the note on the lighthouse.
Bring us the girl and wipe away the dead.
Yeah.
Bring us the girl and wipe away the dead.
Last chance.
Scrolled with a bloody kind of a writing. And then you go in, and then, who knows? Who knows what the fuck you're dealing with? Then you ascend.
So, okay, you're baptized, if I recall correctly,
yes.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. Forcefully, rather.
Yes.
And you come to...
Aren't we all?
What?
Aren't we all?
Unless you're Amish, you don't really have a choice.
So you're...
I didn't have a choice.
You're in Colombia. And this place is beautiful. Everybody's friendly.
Stunning.
It's clean.
It's such the opposite of the first game.
Mm-hmm.
It really, really is such a juxtaposition of what you had from the first game to this one.
I wish I could remember how I felt the first time I played it. Which is good that you're here, in a sense that you've never had this experience until,
right, so recently. Yeah.
And you're walking through, and you're kind of getting the vibe that this place is some sort of utopia, some sort of perfect paradise in the fucking sky. Okay. But then, as you creep along for like 20 or so minutes, however long you're inspecting, you start finding little bits and pieces, just little things. The raffle. God damn.
The raffle.
Listeners, I don't know. No, I do know, actually. I don't know. There has never been a gaming moment for me as an adult, and certainly as a child, where I had such a guttural reaction to what I saw. I do remember that first time. And I remember because everybody's excited about the raffle. Every fucking person is excited.
They are super stoked about it.
Well, see, I remember, in, I don't know, middle school or high school, reading a short story called The Lottery.
Yeah.
Which, when I saw them walking up, and of course you're trying to get past the group of people at the periphery, and you can't. They're all positioned in a way that you can't walk through. So you have to go to the front of the stage where the raffle's happening. And I'm like, well, I've seen this before. I don't know what this is going to do, but I know it ain't going to be good.
Mm-mm.
And fuck, Jones, take it away.
Well, I mean, look, I played a lot of games where you shoot a lot of people.
It's true.
I mean, zombies,
So many
robots,
zombies.
other human beings, right? Nazis, bad people.
A lot of Nazis.
Yeah. there is. So okay, listeners, you find yourself, and there's a big line. Everybody's excited.
Oh, there's
Just
a lot of
add in,
people.
You open the game up, and you are a man by the name of Booker DeWitt.
That's probably important information.
You are Booker DeWitt, and you are a man who all we really know is that we're on this boat. We've been taken to this lighthouse by these two British people that just seem to babble about memories
There's a
and
gun
stuff.
for you.
We gotta find the girl.
There's a gun, and you've got a mark on your hand that says AD. And you've seen it? No.
Before we go any further, when you played it the first time, Matt, what did you think 80 stood for?
I had no idea. I didn't even try to think about what 80 stood for. All I thought about was when you're walking through Columbia, there's the sign, which is your first inclination that the AD is not going to be good for something. Playing enough video games, I figure there's no way it's not there for a purpose. I'm sure it's going to start to reveal itself at some big part of the story. But I didn't even try to figure out what it exactly meant. I just figured it was probably a brand of some type. And then, of course, when I saw the sign, I was like, well, shit, that's not good. Just,
Mark of the false shepherd.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I thought, we're talking 2013, which is such a long time ago. I'm like, okay, at some point it's gonna be some sort of title. I thought it would be like something like an Antichrist something, like anti-something. Like, I don't know, but I didn't expect it to be what it was.
No.
At all.
No.
Like, why would I ever expect
Yeah.
that? But I thought it would be something a bit grander.
I thought
something.
And
so
part of it too is like, there's a big deal about it at the beginning, and then
there's nothing.
Then there's nothing. You forget all about it until it comes back around. And you're like, oh shit, I forgot
Sure.
I'm branded.
Yeah, it basically just serves just enough for you to get, because while you're paying attention to it.
Yeah.
No, I thought it had something to do with BC, AD, like time
There you go.
frames.
Yeah,
That's what I thought. I'm like, oh yeah, because here's an obvious. I wasn't expecting this extreme religious implication in this game.
Right.
And here's all this gospel music and this ascension, and now I'm up in the clouds, and I have AD, which for our non-Latin speaking friends basically means post Christ, right? And BC, which is before Christ, right? So here we are now, and that's what I thought was very wrong. Was very wrong.
I'm building up to this because I think this is like an incredibly important part of this game. Everything you do kind of hinges on the series of events that unfold.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right?
Well, and let me just kind of say too here, Joes, before you even go further with that. You haven't done anything in the game yet.
Nope. Not
You
much.
You think you're going to go for a firefight, and it's not.
Right. There is no fighting that has even happened at any point in the set. You're just exploring and you're taking in the world. So, this raffle is the very first inciting incident of what's going to happen.
Yeah, so it cut to the chase, right? The raffle, like you win the raffle. Your character, you win the raffle. Hey!
Winner,
like,
winner,
Number
chicken dinner.
77.
Am I gonna be like, am I gonna get, I don't know, a keg of beer? What am I gonna get? You have the opportunity amongst all these really excited people who wanted to win the fucking raffle.
Clearly not their first lottery.
This is clearly not their first.
Not their first.
Nope.
They knew
Nope.
what the fuck was up when
No.
they showed up.
Yeah.
They 100% knew. You got a white man and a black woman who are interracial couple, and they're like, "Here's this baseball. Hey, knock these motherfuckers out. Take a throw." And I've played this game now 3 times because I enjoyed it so much, and I still get so fucking rageful. I always have to stop. And I remember sitting on the couch in my old apartment just staring at the TV. Going, what the fuck is going on here? Like, and I'm like, I'm not playing this fucking game. Fuck this game. I'm not fucking touching this shit. And I'm like, let's just keep going. And then, because masterfully what they're doing is showing you that no matter who you're gonna fucking kill in this world, they got this shit coming. They're bad people.
Yeah.
They're all bad people. They're not
Yeah.
Nazis. They're not mutants. They're not robots. They're not aliens. Some of them are robots. Some of them are what the fuck ever they are. But ultimately, they're not good people. So your feeling of, regret, like, should I pull the trigger? No, that cop has it coming. He paid for a ticket in the raffle.
Yeah.
And like the shit. There's a line I wrote. I don't remember hearing this the first 2 times I fucking played this game.
It's probably the same line I wrote down.
And I went, what motherfucker? These fucking people.
Would you like me to read it?
Find it? Go ahead.
The guy running the raffle says, "Oh, you're taking your coffee black these days." Ha 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 ha.
That is not it. But I don't remember who the fuck said it because I didn't write down who. I don't know if it was an NPC randomly. It was like, I'm a half Jew when I smell silver, and I'm like, motherfucker. They're like the worst type of fucking people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are the worst type of people.
I've played a lot of video games in my life, And there have only really been a couple of moments where I've just been like, holy shit. I remember the first one was the first time I played Conquer Live and Reloaded.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And it's just fucking shot for shot Saving Private Ryan at the beginning of that fucking game.
Yeah.
And I just remember being like, wow, I'm really in for it. And I was not ready for that. Like, I figured the situation, somebody was going to get stoned. Like, that was kind of like what was going to happen. Did not realize it was just going to be,
overt racism.
Like just overt racism. It was going to be just color people. I just couldn't believe that.
So I think really the game sets you up for it to be like indicative of the time. I mean, we're talking turn of the century, right? And human rights aren't a thing at the time. But what I think the point the game tries to make right out of the gate is that you think you're in this utopia and there's no combat, and then it hits you with this very idea that ugly and violent human nature will still rear its head whether they're fighting as president or not. And if you take people that have a certain set of ideals and then you isolate them, it's only going to get worse.
That's a good point.
And I think the game immediately proves, and to kind of reinforce what you said, to make you not feel bad about what you're about to do.
What I'm going to do to these
every
people.
single person that's
all
in
got
that
it coming.
room.
Yeah, because it's a very white elitist colony.
It's very
living
American
in Colombia.
exceptionalism.
But
That's the whole point of the game.
But when has white elitism coupled with religious fanaticism ever been bad?
Oh man,
It's a good question.
that's a great question.
It's just basically that scene, which doesn't. I mean, it is the catalyst to all the action.
Yeah.
But it really serves to crystallize how irredeemable this place is.
Yeah, it's not everything it was cracked up to be when you first opened that gate.
But now the guard sees you got the AD on your hand. You are the beast. You are the false prophet. You are
he who will lead the lamb astray.
the lamb astray. And now the gunfighting begins. And I'm going to put this out. I'm not going to say a whole lot about how the game controls.
Gunfighting?
And it does happen.
Eventually.
Yeah.
A lot of it.
Shame.
It's a lot of it.
Anyhow. But
Just had to drip it in there.
I had to. I started to do a little shit.
Yeah.
But I will say that I remember the gunplay being better.
Yeah.
It did not age well.
That's the one part of the game that did not age well, is that it looked great at the time. And I remember, so micro story. I liked the first Bioshock. I didn't like it as a first-person shooter. I didn't like how it was neither horror enough or first-person shooter enough to be both. But the twist, the would you kindly, Mr. Ryan, was enough to get me into it and go, okay. I did not like Bioshock 2 at all. Bioshock 2 had none of the redeeming qualities of the first one and all of the negatives of the first one. So I had no desire to play Bioshock Infinite until you played it and you wouldn't shut the fuck up about it.
I needed to tell people.
Yeah, and I was like, what the fuck, whatever. And then ironically, it was, I don't know if it was a game theory or some early YouTube channel in that 2013, 2014, and they were talking about top uses of music in games. And Bioshock Infinite was on there. And it was, I'm like, that just, and the clips they showed were not what I'd seen previously. And it was just good enough and interesting enough for me to put in. I'm like, oh my God. That being said, Xbox 360s was a great growth period for games.
Yes.
And so much of the, I really want to say, like, we've done a lot graphically and like depth-wise since then, but as far as where the games are at the beginning of the 360 to where they were at the end, that was a huge leap.
Yeah, it was the first big game to use Unreal Engine 3.
Exactly. So it looked gorgeous, but I think it still came at the end of the 360's life.
Yeah.
So we weren't quite, and one of the first things that the 360 did, or the Xbox One and the PS4 did when they came out, was like, oh, we're going to make everything a little more fluid, feel a little bit more natural, a little bit more intuitive. So this was still that holdover from the decade previous to it. I think so. It was clunky. I think the gunfights were clunky.
It was, and it just it wouldn't say it was even floaty feeling, but going back now, having played so many other first-person shooters that do it obviously infinitely better. Better. It was still serviceable, of course, but you felt how old it was.
Yeah.
But you know what? Still gets me. Mac, you'd love this shit. And it's still one of my favorite things about this game, because I don't think there's any other game I've played, at least, that does this. The fucking, when you kill somebody, almost every time there's like that little like note that plays. That like tragic drum, like the piano, or like you melee somebody. And it's visceral. The melees feel good. because you're fucking smashing somebody in the face, or you're turning the rail spinny thing on them or something. Yeah. But the use of just the sound, the music, the sound effects were so well done. With headphones on, and you're playing this, and every time you kill somebody, that little piano note that sounds a little tragic in the background plays. Yeah. It's so well done. And I don't want to spend a whole lot of time, dicking around with this. I mean, this isn't. I mean, I'm not intending this to be like a full overview of the story, but there are bits and pieces that are important.
We can hit the note. We can hit the highlights. I think that's where we should focus, and I want to talk about sound design at the end. As far as
and just to touch on the melee, one of my favorite things to do in the game is to melee with the electricity vigor turned on.
Yep.
Because, one, you electrocute them, and like every other one, it explodes their head, which is just visually, it's awesome to see.
What's your favorite
Eat
vigor?
This racist. Nah. Yeah.
The electricity is mine.
Same.
Yeah.
That and the bucking bronco.
Crows, man. Give me the murder crows.
Oh, the murder
fucking
crows.
love that shit.
That's so metal. That's what it is.
Yeah. It is. I mean, you can get all these upgrades and all these different ones, and they're all fine. They do things, but there's something so satisfying about going, get him, with your crows unleashed to your target.
The fucking crow guys that you have to fight through the game, like they're the most annoying enemies.
They're brutal.
The first time you encounter him, it's in the John Wilkes Booth deal, right?
Yeah.
Can we talk about that for a second?
Sure.
How fucked up that is?
Yep.
Right. So, Mac,
there's a very. This is how we wanted things to go.
Oh my God!
If the South won.
There is a full Our American Cousin, John Wilkes Booth, the South will rise again vibe to it here, because you got to think. Not trying to go too far ahead. Booker DeWitt is wounded at the Battle of Wounded Knee. Right? He is. So, what follows the Battle of Wounded Knee, basically, which is one of the darkest days in American history, right? Considering, the violence against indigenous peoples, is a split public opinion. This is going history for a second. It's where you see the beginning of the actual, emergence of people realizing that maybe we have treated the Native Americans too harshly. Then you see people who are like, fuck them, right? And let's spend another 100 years making media where cowboys chase Indians around. And it's horrible, but that was a split concept of where public opinion falls at that time, and you can definitely tell what side of the camp these people absolutely
Yeah, because
fell.
Comstock fell on that side of the fence.
Yep.
Created Columbia, which was part of the U.S.
Yeah.
And because his ideals were so drastically different than what the U.S. as a country believed in, it annexed from the U.S.
Seceded
and
from the Union.
disappeared up in the clouds.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of clouds, Jeff, what are you drinking?
I am drinking a beer from Dewey Beer Company in Maryland, I believe, Delaware, close enough, called Soft Blue Skies.
Oh.
Because when I saw the clouds on the can, and I knew we were talking about the beautiful, wonderful people in the city of Columbia.
They are so lovely.
So lovely. Such fine folks
I'm
out
drinking
there.
Equilibrium MC Squared. And for those of you who have not played this game and don't know why I chose MC Squared, it will become very apparent.
We're gonna get there.
Very
science.
Let's make it apparent. Let's clue Dave and our listeners in here as to where the story goes, and then we can elaborate on, because I really like the use of the vigors and the gears in the game as far as things that age well in the game. But let's go through the story here. A little bit less detailed than a wrestling pay-per-view, but a little bit more detailed than anyone else we go. So as we said, you open up on a boat led by the two babbling English people, a man and a woman, and are given a gun and walk up to a lighthouse where you are told to bring the girl and the debt is forgiven. Last chance. And you go into a lighthouse where you get in. It's basically, it's a rocket silo, and you ascend into Columbia. Upon arrival in Columbia, you are observing this idea of this almost utopian, isolated society, which seems just fine until the racist battle royal that is the raffle. And then at that point, you are branded as the Antichrist, he who will lead the lamb. Keep that in mind, the lamb astray. And then
Hold
the
on,
firefights
I just realized
began.
something.
What?
Holy shit. I don't know why it didn't click till now. Mac, there's an entire... Not the combat. Not even the fucking story.
He didn't get to Elizabeth.
The thing that makes the game so utterly unique, you didn't even touch it. That makes me kind of angry a little bit because you need when you play
You
this
didn't even
shit,
get there.
you're gonna be
Yeah.
like, I've never played anything like this. And honestly, to this day, I don't think I've ever played anything quite that was
To that level, no.
presented. She was
Agreed.
presented such a way. It became such an important part of my experience that like I began to associate her as almost like a real person in this space. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Am I? Because I'm not the only person who felt that way about this character.
No.
Like, the actress did a fucking amazing
Oh
job.
no! I know Nolan North did Booker DeWitt, right? Who?
No.
No, what, he wasn't.
No, it was the other guy.
Was
Fuck. Troy Baker.
yeah, Troy Baker. Yeah, Troy Baker.
It was one. It was either A or B.
It was basically it's either Nolan North or Troy Baker in every game that came out from 2006.
Courtney
to today.
Draper was-
there. It is.
was
there,
Liz.
There it
Elizabeth.
is. Yeah. So they are. It was incredible performances. all
So
of it.
So sorry. Go ahead.
No,
I just had this moment of clarity. I'm like, wait, fuck, Mac
You
didn't
can take it
have
from
that
here if you want.
experience.
That's
No,
right.
please,
That's fine.
you're much better at this than I am.
No. So here we are, and basically to kind of cut some of that middle point down. Here you are in Colombia, a place that has been built by the prophet Zachary Comstock.
Yes.
I can't remember his middle part. I never can remember the middle part of it. Zachary something Comstock, and he is the prophet, and his adopted daughter Elizabeth is the she who you put together that you are sent to rescue.
She is the lamb.
His daughter, the lamb, Elizabeth Comstock. But so should I go into her abilities now? Yeah, her abilities.
Fuck it. Yeah, I mean, it's important.
Yeah, let's go. So Elizabeth has a particular ability, which doesn't make because again, for a game that is based in a city that is floating in the sky on rails
in the early 1900s.
in the early 1900s,
Yeah.
it's still reasonably grounded,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It still feels to that time till you get to this point, and it still feels good. Elizabeth has an ability to tear rifts between universes,
Time and space.
It's
time and
really
space,
fucking cool.
and dimension,
And travel between them.
and travel between them. She creates doorways.
Like you do.
Yes, and doors, and they are, and you come to find out that Elizabeth is Zach Comstock is using his daughter's power through siphons to conduct his genetic mutations, to conduct his genetic experiments, and with the ultimate goal to maybe even resurrect the Lady Comstock. Spoiler alert: it works, and it's terrible.
Terrifying.
Terrifying.
She's
To me-
either alive or dead.
No, and to me
Also
that,
a super annoying fucking mission.
And I know,
Yes.
I'm about to complain about something real fast. But before I complain about the thing that I'm going to complain about, the hardest boss for me was Lady Comstock.
Yeah.
Like in
Yeah.
the whole game.
Yeah.
Like the whole idea. He
100%.
resurrects his dead wife using his daughter's power, and she don't fuck around with you at all. Like, oh my god.
She's
She-
like the
will
worst
stomp your ass.
poltergeist you would ever
yeah, like,
encounter.
and it's a for real boss. Because every other fight you're there, like, it's reasonable. It's manageable. I can do this. You get to her, you're like, gotta pause. You like go get a fresh Pepsi out of the fridge. You gotta like have it a second. You gotta have like a strategy. Meet with yourself. You're like, what am I doing?
Like,
what am I not
doing
doing
wrong?
right here? Why am I getting beat so bad? But before that, you have to rescue Elizabeth from a tower, as a damsel
Yes.
would be found in a tower.
It's so good.
And you had mentioned earlier in the show about things about this game that you had forgotten. And of all the things, when we were talking about playing this game and getting excited to do this on the podcast, of all the things I remembered, I had forgotten about the Songbird.
the songbird.
Oh, what the
fucking
fuck
love
is it?
completely
Because I
forgotten
can't
about
figure
the
it out.
It's
Songbird.
mechanical.
It can't all
It is
be
a
mechanical.
giant
It
mechanical
has
bird
to be
that
biological on
protects
some
Elizabeth
level.
and keeps her in her tower.
Ah.
And whenever Elizabeth
It
is,
is
let's say,
terrifying.
removed from her tower, or someone attempts to remove her, it is a giant mechanical crow, songbird, that is terrifying and is the source
Destroys
of
the shit
almost
out of
every
everything.
jump scare in this game, and it is effective. It is hyper effective, and you forget it exists. And I'm like, what? But oh, fuck! And then bam! You're like, oh, the songbird.
It's the shrill screech
Yes.
that it makes.
And it get and the shriek and the best and worst at the same time, because terror is a thing. Part of it is when it shrills, and you can't see it. It's one of the few times you're enclosed or you don't know where it is. You're like, oh, this thing's gonna burst through the fucking wall and fuck me up. Where is it at? And it does.
Then it bursts through the wall and fucks you up.
It fucks you up straight up, and it's the songbird and the tragic sub-story, which we don't even have time to today to get into the tragic sub-story of the songbird.
There's which leads me actually. The only real complaint I have about this game, and it's double-edged because I think I like games that do this, but but at the same time I wish I could have seen it more in the game. They have these audio laws. I'm sure you ran into a one or
Yeah.
two,
Yeah.
and there are so many of them hidden because look,
it goes deep into the lore of the story.
If you just went A to B and beat the game and didn't do a whole lot of explaining,
You
you'd
wouldn't
run through a
understand
couple
shit.
of them,
Yeah.
you'd catch bits and pieces,
Yeah.
but you'd end and go, like, the first time I played the game, I was a red box, so I couldn't fuck around. I just beat the game, and I'm like, oh, this was great. But I'm like, Shit didn't make a whole lot of sense, though, on some levels.
Nope.
Second playthrough when I bought the game, and I just spent some time. And I'm sure I missed some, but you get a much clearer picture on this world. That is so fucked. There's so much intrigue.
Yeah, I picked it
and
up.
Backstabbing going on.
I picked it up right in the beginning, and I've been going through and watching all of those.
Yes,
so I'm like 6 or 7 in right now.
So now I'm because we're jumping all over the place, but fuck it, it's our show.
We can do whatever we want.
I'm going to pose a question to you guys, but Jeff, Noah. So Elizabeth can create tears.
Yeah.
There's actually a moment where she creates a tear, and I'm pretty sure it was France. It looked like it was France.
Yeah.
And there was like a movie theater that had like Revenge of the Jedi. Yeah, it was really cool. Like she made an entire tear at a different point in time.
Into
they
a
go
completely
into
different
they
universe.
go
was
into
really
the
cool.
80s
Different point
later
and
in the game.
feature. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of those throwaway moments like that. Yeah.
But I feel like you guys already know this, but it took me until my third playthrough to figure it out, to click, to actually realize why it was happening. And I could be wrong, but bear with me on this. Why do you guys think she was able to create the tears?
Well, it's explained later in the game, but I don't want to spoil it.
Because I don't know if I caught this before.
Get it.
Because I just figured she just happened to be able to do it, right? Just
No,
magically. But it's because she's in two different places.
It's because she
and I didn't
she
realize
physically
that's why it
exists
was.
in two
Different
parallel
realities.
universes.
I'm like, because it
Yeah.
didn't click that it was the pink.
All right.
Correct.
All right, let's just quit dancing around this and let's get to the bread and butter of this. And if anyone wants to hop in, you hop in and you
Okay.
take us where we're going to go.
Do
so
it.
the entire point of the game is that you are to rescue or kidnap, as what you think, Elizabeth and take her to where you think is New York. So you take her and you get past the songbird and the guards and you take her and you get on an airship. And she's like, let's go to Paris. I've always wanted to see Paris. And she's like, and you're like, oh, sure. But you don't point that thing towards Paris. You point it towards New York.
Because you're a shitty person.
Because you're a shitty person,
Yeah.
and you have to repay your debt, though you don't understand what the debt is. None of us do, because, again, you have about the exact same amount of realization as what's going on as Booker DeWitt does in the world, and she knocks your ass out.
Yep.
And,
She ain't happy.
And I want to touch on the Vox Populi.
Oh, there's
here.
a whole
I
other
fucking
thing
love
going
that.
on.
Yeah, it was so good. I want to touch on the Vox Populi. You know what?
Daisy
Fuck it.
Fitzroy.
We'll do it now. Yep.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Daisy. So you wake up, and you are face-to-face with Daisy Fitzroy, the leader of the resistance on Columbia,
Yep.
the Vox Populi, who, to the surprise of absolutely nobody who played the first 25 minutes of the game, it's mostly people of color who feel marginalized
Yeah.
by Columbia,
Yep.
who agrees that to give you control of the airship should you be able to bring Elizabeth back and save her. After she decked your ass, and you feel guilty about it, so you do. And then we're off to the races. Well, in chasing Elizabeth down and convincing her that you're really less of a shitty person than she thought you were, but you are still a shitty person, through excellent voiceovers and convincing, Elizabeth tears a hole in a reality which transports you to a different reality of Columbia,
Yes.
where you died as a hero of the Vox
Yeah, you're a
Populi in
martyr.
a revolution, and you were martyred by them for the revolution. And Daisy, who about 5 minutes ago was a badass ally of you, ready to lead the revolution and get you off of this thing, now realizes that you aren't the Booker from her timeline.
because you dead.
Because you're
very
dead,
dead.
and now you being alive diminishes the sacrifice that her Booker made and towards the revolution, and might undermine her cause. So now the Vox Populi are going to kill you. And the only way that is stopped is by the second major character development of Elizabeth, who has to kill Daisy.
Yes.
And does not feel good because
Daisy has a gun to a kid's head.
Yeah.
an innocent child.
An innocent white child that she
Yeah.
is going to murder.
An innocent child she's going to murder
Yes.
unless you give yourself up to be murdered, and so she can continue her cause, which is in a complete stark contrast of where Daisy was in the original universe that we started in, and Elizabeth has to murder her, and it starts to change Elizabeth. The game starts to get out of hand at this point. So bear with me with where we're going.
Wait, it was grounded and in hand before this?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
because where this goes.
Shit's off the rails
Oh
now.
yeah. Where this goes, you're gonna wish that you were. Oh, she could tear into reality, and we go into an alternate thing where you die.
So
that's the easy.
Sprinkled up with all this, as Noah's expertly explaining the story in the only way that Noah can, I cannot stress enough to everybody listening, and to you, Mac, especially, the importance of this character that's with you the whole time. It's not like you've played games where, like, there's an NPC wanders with you.
In the escort mission.
They get around.
Yeah.
This character
It's
is
not like
the game.
GoldenEye escort mission.
Yeah, the game doesn't start until
The
you kidnap Elizabeth. The game really starts then, because now you're talking to her as you play the game. She has these the animators, her eyes, like
she's
so
well
much emotion.
designed.
Yeah.
Like, and she's just there. She's finding things for you. You guys are chatting. Your character goes from this hardened, bitter, jaded, Pinkerton to maybe we can save this. Maybe I can save you. Maybe we just get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, you start to see the world that she's been forced to live in, and you're drawn to her, and you want to help her, but you are still grounded in the idea that you still have a motivation, though you don't understand why you're motivated to repay the debt and to figure out the world, and you don't understand, but now it's become apparent to you at this point throughout. First of all, she is just so well voice acted in this game. Like, it's one of the great, I would say top 5.
It's what sold the game.
Yeah,
honestly,
Elizabeth's voice acting, period, and Troy Baker as well, period, excellent. But and now you realize that in order for her to be free of this world, you think, and of this life she lives, the Comstock has to die, and she's taken. And so you have to go, and you have to stop Comstock. Now, backstory on Comstock a little bit. He did obviously found this this city and rise it based off his drastic ideals, and raise it above the crummy ideology and above the rest in whatever racist world he wanted to see fit. But it's important to note at this point, and it's so weird to try to explain this story in a linear fashion.
It's hard to do.
It's impossible.
Because
it's not linear.
Are you about to jump to where, like, okay, so that she makes the tear, they go into the alternate reality, but then they make it back, but then Elizabeth is, like, the point where she's still in another reality, but time has passed. Like, that shit?
When she's 80?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we're not quite there yet. We're
Okay.
not quite there yet, because you have to realize that Comstock is protecting Elizabeth, and his wife is dead. And all you know is that his wife is dead. In which case he uses Elizabeth to help reanimate his wife. Okay, so then we get to the point where on the course to saving Elizabeth's been taken by Comstock. Songbird's still after her to protect her and you, by the way, in this terrifying motion. Then a tear happens, and there's 80-year-old Elizabeth, who, by the way, tells you that you fail to rescue Comstock, and she grows old to rescue her from Comstock, and she grows old and has been brainwashed by him.
She's now vengeful hand
and laying waste to the United States below her.
Dude,
in a
this
war
scene is so badass.
They converted Columbia into a battleship and
Not surprised by
just
that.
decimated New York City.
Yeah,
and you just
Well,
see
they
the entire
hint-
city burning.
They hint at that.
While her just watching
They
over
hint
it.
at that in the beginning of the game.
Mm-hmm.
That's a logical direction.
That
for
happens.
Now,
It does. So
Adding-
she tells you. No, she tells you when you're in the middle of trying to save her. She's like, by the way, you fail. You won't save me, and I'll become a monster, and I lay waste to the heretics below. And
She still looks good for her age.
She looks great.
Wait, where's the Hindenburg in all this?
good question.
Maybe that's what it just bumped into Columbia.
That,
Down.
shit.
So while
Yeah.
you're going to try to find her, because in your mind, like, what, maybe an hour has passed. Now for her, in this particular version of her, this reality of her, it's been decades. And like when you're wandering through trying to figure out why is everything so different, why is everything so, like it's like almost like wintertime or something like that, you can hear
As you're going through, you see the tears, and you hear her talking.
like her being broken
Yeah.
by her father. That shit is so heavy
like,
for
the
her.
It's very
active idea
visceral.
of her being
Yeah.
brainwashed,
And, like,
very brainwashed.
It's so sad because she's like, he's not coming. He'll come. Talking about DeWitt. It's like he'll make it. He'll be like, he's not coming. It's too late. And like just listening to her slowly being broken and turned into whatever Comstock wanted her to be, and then you see her and she's this old lady, and like you like you're looking over the edge, and it's just like New York or whatever it is, and they're about to
Burning.
fucking burn everything down. You're like, what the fuck is this game?
And
What is happening here to me?
But because Elizabeth is still Elizabeth, she's like, you have to stop it. And you have to, and she gives you, she's like, the reason why you never make it is because the songbird stops you. And the songbird will never let you take me. So she gives you the whistler, which is the key to
Control the songbird.
Control the songbird and this giant creature that protects her. I just would love to see inside your brain trying to picture all this right now.
There's a lot happening,
There's a lot
to be
going on.
fair.
So, okay, So now we're at the point where you jump back, and now you have to use the Whistler to. Does she use the Whistler before or after Comstock and the Bird Bath?
After.
She uses the Whistler after,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Oh,
All
yeah.
right, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you jump back. You guys can feel free to jump in here at any time.
There's no Hindenburg, but there is a Zeppelin,
Yeah.
Nice.
which is where Comstock has ran to. He has his own giant airship above the other airship.
Yeah. Again, there must be an elite amongst the elites.
Yes. So you fight your way to the top, which is the captain's chambers, which is an oasis when you walk in there. And Elizabeth wants to murder Comstock. And DeWitt says, no, I'm going to murder Comstock for you.
Yeah.
So he drowns him in a bird bath
After
he bashes his
drowns
head
him
off
in
to
a
the
bird
side.
bath. Now keep in mind the songbird thing.
Yes.
And your forced baptism when you arrive on there, and you drown him in a small pool of water.
Yep.
Which is a brutal. Normally in video games, you shoot him and you push him off a roof.
Yeah.
No, you very brutally drown the main villain.
Yeah.
In water.
Yeah, and he doesn't fight back. He doesn't try. He's like, what did he say? Like, it is done, or it's finished, or it's happening,
finished.
or something or other. And that's it. And that's when things start spiraling. Like the game's like probably like another 45 minutes longer. Maybe.
Because then you have to
Depends how long it takes
battle.
to do that last battle.
Then you have to battle the rest of the Zeppelins
Yeah.
on top of the airship.
Yeah, which is badass.
Wait, there's Zeppelins on top of the Zeppelin, on top of the city
Yeah.
flying in the sky, on
It's
top of the United
Zeppelin
States.
Yeah.
Shit.
They just keep literally escalating the risk and the stakes of this thing.
At what point are you in the stratosphere? Like, what's the oxygen getting thin up there?
Hold on to that thought. Not literally. No. But so from there, okay, it's over. Comstock's dead. Elizabeth is free. Nah. Songbird didn't get that memo.
No.
Right.
You get to use Songbird as an ally for a while. Though,
Yeah.
using
Oh, yeah.
the thing.
Controlling
Using the
Songbird
whistle.
is pretty badass.
That's badass.
But then Elizabeth, in a pure showing of badassery, just murders Songbird. Like,
in a way, she does
in a way.
not straight up murders. Like she does it in this truly Elizabeth way.
well,
Okay.
she felt bad for him, and I felt bad for him
Yeah.
in that moment. Like,
Okay. Well, did we? I don't know. I don't know if this is the idea of the lore because I did not look as many of the audio logs as I did this time, and I didn't go tooling around on the wiki, which is I wanted to do. But by the time you beat the game, you're just so spent. You're just like I gotta.
Yeah.
I need a shower and a shave, and then I did legitimately shave my mustache after I beat
need
the
that
game.
just listening to this.
But the Songbird was created by Comstock and not Roberta, the lady Luquette, right? To entertain her and to keep her safe as a small child, and it grew as she grew until it became this whole entire hulking monster. So she's known it all of her life. Yeah. So in order to stop the Songbird, he in the midst of this big battle on top of Zeppelins, he drops the Whistler. So Songbbird's like, "Fuck this, I'm coming for you." And she, in badassery, tears a big tear and sucks everyone through. And you, as Booker, you wake up, you're like, "Where are we? Where is it?" And you realize you're in Rapture, under the water, and the Songbird is outside,
drowning.
Yeah.
and drowns.
And you watch it just
outside
drown.
the window.
Yeah, and it's very emotional.
Its eyes implode.
and crushed under the weight of the ocean.
You
in
feel bad
Rapture.
for Songbird, right?
Yeah.
And
right
she
there.
felt bad for
Like,
him.
it's
You could
fucking
see
sad.
she was
She's
sad
like,
about
"It's
it.
okay. It's okay."
It was
now.
so weird. Like, tell her
It's
just,
okay
just
now.
accept it.
Wait, so now we're in Rapture?
Yes.
The fuck?
She opens up a gate to Rapture.
It's a Bioshock game.
It is.
Rapture's there.
Yeah.
So it's all coming
And,
together.
okay, and then Booker's
In a way,
like,
yeah.
and Booker's like, "What the hell is this place?" She's like, "It's a doorway. It's all a doorway."
So here's my other. God
Get it.
damn
Hop in.
Here's my only other critique that I didn't write it down, but I remember thinking to myself, her switch from being like
Naive?
not really understanding her powers to being I understand all was so sudden, and it's still even all these years later, it's still very jarring because I kind of have to like convince myself that what she's saying she believes. Because now she understands everything. It's like fucking Neo in the Matrix. He sees the Matrix. She
from
sees
the
the
time
Matrix
that
now.
she got recaptured to the time that you save her in Comstock's tower, 6 months to a year has passed
In the game.
in the game.
And she also has become aware, not to throw anything to what we're about to talk about in about 5 minutes, but Elizabeth is aware of her power, but not really aware of the consequences of it when you need it. And then by the time you pick her back up, And she's like, "You have to. He
Jim-
has to die." And you're like, "Oh no, I'll do it." Right? And you drown Comstock in the bird bath. Almost like bubble bath.
And the siphon was what was prohibiting her power, and she knew that if Songbird destroyed it, then she could unlock her power.
And man, does she ever!
Yes, and she tells you about, again, 10 minutes later, 5 minutes later, that she can see
Everything.
Every reality.
So yes, so she basically, through Rapture, you find out that she can see that time is a doorway, and everything's a doorway, and everything's leading to moments, and everything's happening a thousand times, and it takes you back. And you're going through Rapture, and you're opening doors in Rapture, but it's really a door, and you come out, and you're on a rowboat. And the British twins are there.
It's the beginning of the game, kind of, in a way.
Yeah, and it kind of setting up the beginning of the game. And you know what? I could describe every moment and not have it make any sense. So let's Cliff Notes this version.
Let's try
down
to.
a little bit.
Death is but a door. Time is but a window. I'll be back.
Put a pin in that, because you have no fucking idea how much that actually Ghostbusters 2 lines up with this. So, all these moments...
Is Bioshock Infinite just Ghostbusters 4? Like, do they actually tie it in?
I wish. Maybe it's the sequel to the one with Kirsten Wiig.
Comstock ends up being Vigo, the Butch.
And when his head finally died. So, how do you start this? Okay, so yeah.
Go on.
No, you can.
Oh, I mean, I was just gonna say, like, so we're doing the Cliff Notes, right?
We got it. So Elizabeth says that all moments are intertwined, right?
Constants and variables.
Constants
Everything's
and
constant
variables.
and variables.
Constants and variables. That things, that the world, and that all, and she opens up the Rapture door, and you see a lighthouse, and then through the lighthouse are millions.
Yeah,
of
just
other
everywhere.
lighthouses.
They look like stars at first until you
So-
get close. You realize they're all just
They're
lighthouses.
just lights from lighthouses, and each one is a doorway to a different world where things are different but the same.
And each one has a DeWitt and an Elizabeth walking on the dock.
This is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of
Oh yeah,
Madness,
wait,
just
previous to
9
that
years
shit.
ago.
Yeah.
Previous to that shit, and you see as you're walking with her, and she's explaining to you that everything. You see other hookers, and Elizabeth's walking as well, and he's like, "That's us," and they're not paying attention to you, and you're too busy following. And as she's walking, and it's such an interesting note because you can't go ahead of her.
Right.
The game stops you from going ahead of her, so because the docks don't exist until she starts walking, and then she gets to a T. And she chooses the path that goes left to right. And it's like a subtle idea, but she's leading you to the exact moments and the exact doorway that you need to go through. So, remember the first note on the game, bring us the girl and the debt is forgiven, last chance. Okay? And the AD on the hand. Well, Booker DeWitt, first, we go through a door where Booker DeWitt is in the middle of a pond, of a lake. And there's a gospel music playing. And a bunch of people gathered around, and we are at Booker DeWitt's baptism, as he explains.
Yes.
And at the end of
At
the battle,
Wounded
just after Wounded Knee.
Yeah.
And he thought that he needed a new start after the atrocities that he's done. And he's like, I've already been here. And she's like, I know you have. And he's like, I said no. She's like, in another time you have. Because there's infinite times and infinite possibilities. And you start reliving this moment where he's going to be baptized, and he walks away from it. He said, no, I can't do it. And he's like, I realized, it's just like, why did you walk away? He said, I realized at that moment that no amount of dipping my head in water or finding religion would change the atrocities that I've done. And then he goes, we're back into a rowboat again. And you basically get to the point where you are Booker DeWitt, and there's a knock at the door, and you're in a house. It's October 8th, 18-something, right?
18-something, yeah.
1898. October 8th, 1898, and there's a knock at your door, and it's the British dude that's been in the boat. And he tells you, this is your last chance. Give us the girl, and the debt is repaid. And you turn, and you realize that the girl that they're talking about is your baby, Abby DeWitt. I got goosebumps talking about it.
It's some shit, man.
AD, right? Abby DeWitt. And Elizabeth's in the room with you here, and you're like, why would I ever give up my baby? She's like, you do. Eventually, you always do.
You always do.
No matter how long you stand here, no matter how long you delay it, you will give him what he wants at the end. And she's like, so she tells you, just do it. So there's this little girl, and you pick her up, and without telling you the obvious visual cues of these very well animated eyes on this baby. Important thing that we completely have forgot to mention to this point, it is super huge.
Oh, good.
That when you meet Elizabeth at the first time, she is a perfectly rational and normal person, except she's missing a pinky finger.
That's right.
And just like the AED, it's like, hey, notice this thing. Now forget about it
Yep.
for 35 hours.
That's like a little
and when you
thimble
kill
on it.
Comstock, right before you do, he says, "Do you want to tell her what you did to her finger?"
He
And you're
does,
like,
yeah.
What the fuck am I? What is he
How do I
talking
know?
about?
What did I do to
Yeah.
her finger?
Yeah.
So, you give this beautiful baby, your baby Abby, away to this man, one of the British people from the beginning of the game.
Is it Abby or Anna? I think it's Anna.
Anna, I'm sorry. Anna, Abby, an A name. Anna DeWitt. It
Either
is
way,
Anna
it's
DeWitt.
AD. Yeah.
Then you're back on the boat, the rowboat that you've been on in the beginning of the game, and you go, but the rowboat leads you to a dock, and you climb up the ladder again, and you find yourself in an alleyway, screaming, "I've changed my mind.
Yeah.
The deal is off." As the British man hands the baby and off to Zachary Comstock.
Very young Zachary Comstock.
Very
There's
young
a
Zach-
portal in a wall.
a tear.
Yep.
A tear. And he starts moving, and there's Lady Comstock screaming to get back and close the gate.
I thought that was the other one. I thought that was the other twin.
I thought it was.
Is
It
it
could be.
not?
I got
Yeah.
those two character models are admittedly very similar.
Purposefully,
You know what I mean?
of
Like
course.
to a certain point where it's like, okay, dark-haired, British-looking person with high cheekbones. I can't tell it. Anyway, and you're like, I changed my mind. Give me back my daughter, you son of a bitch. Give me back my daughter. Comstock's like, close the gate, turn off the device. And as the gate starts to close, and Comstock pulls the baby on the other side of the gate, the pinky gets snipped off.
The gate closes, and it's just a pinky as it falls from the brick wall, which is a visual in and of itself.
Yeah.
In a game.
And the
a baby-
realization of like everything that's happened
You're like, what did
and all this
I
time
do?
you've invested. Like,
But there's more.
Holy shit.
right?
There's more.
Because you think that's the oh fuck you
That's
punch you
not
in
the
the
oh
face
shit moment of the
That's
game.
not it.
That's not the. So yeah. So
That's
Elizabeth
Anno
is your
shit
daughter.
moment.
That's the AD. Your daughter that you sold. You
Liz
gave
is your
away.
daughter. Oh shit, that's your terrible fucking dad.
And she knows. She knows. But she's also doesn't know. And so, because she's also the Elizabeth of living all moments and every moment at the same time. And there's no amount of apologizing you do because Elizabeth has fucking ascended now mentally into another plane of existence where you're reeling. But she's like, don't worry, it gets worse.
So, I my favorite part of the whole game is like the last 10-15 minutes. I think it's
That's
just
fair.
it's
That's fair.
because he's like, well, let's fucking kill the son of a bitch. Let's just smother him before he's born. When he's a baby, you know. And he's like, well, it's not that easy.
And he's
you
like,
know?
there's only one way to stop this. She's like, there's always a you, there's always a me, and there's a Comstock is at the center of all of the thing, and as long as he exists, this will happen
And it
over
says-
and over again.
The line is, we have to kill him when he was born, before he was born.
Before he was born,
And that line is so fucking telling. It's
Yes.
before he was fucking
Before he was born.
And you go, oh yeah, kill his dad. Nah, man.
No.
Because she goes, are you sure about this? She leads him to like another lighthouse, and he goes, what?
no, keep going. I'm just waiting.
And and he's like, yeah, let's do it. And they go in.
We have to smother him when he's a baby.
Yeah,
smother
him.
Smother is the thing. Now, I want to put a pin right in that moment.
How dare you?
And I want to go back to some of the story that we have now, that knowing the revelation that Elizabeth is Anna, who is Booker's daughter, and not Comstock's biological daughter that he stole as a baby. To go into the idea that so the twins are not twins.
Nope.
no,
They are
they're
the same person from two different universes. One happens to be a man and one happens to be a female. And in doing his bidding to bring her into, he creates the tear in order to have his prophecies that Comstock is able to pass along. And in doing so, uses that device and the science of I believe the lady is the
Yeah, it
person.
was her,
She's
yeah.
the original one. Brings Anna and calls her Elizabeth into his reality. But in order to hide this truth from everybody, he murders his wife and tries to murder the twins. But in that respect, too, he fails to murder the twins, and he sets infinite amount of twins off, loose
Infinite
off
amount
into
of
the
twins.
multiverse, which is who we keep bumping into all the time.
'cause
To
you
where
were-
they're on every rowboat that you and it's hard to explain, but in and out of this, you're on multiple rowboats where you start 3 lines, and then you're in the thing. Then you're in off another row, and you come back, and you're in 3 lines, and they start breaking down the 4th wall.
Yeah,
Like,
there's
what-
a lot of things that they sort of plant throughout the game that you don't catch on the first playthrough. Like the first time you meet the twins and you have to flip the coin, And she's like, is it going to be heads? Is it going to be tails?
It's always heads.
And it's always heads. And she marks it on the board that it's 7 or 8, whatever it is.
And then
when he turns around to walk away, the entire back of the board is filled. Because that's how many more DeWitts came through the same thing and failed every single time.
Some heavy shit. And you meet the twins multiple times throughout the game.
If you see that it's all heads, why would you go tails? Why would you just not go heads?
That's the beauty of having the concept of a possible predestination and multiple instances of the same thing with a thing still called free will, right? And they're scientists. They're still scientists, and the idea that they are testing hypotheses on you the entire game.
Yep.
And to where you like, there's even a point where you're like, smother him. The only way to stop it is to go back in time and kill him when he's a baby. We have to go back in time and stop them. Like, how would you know? They out of nowhere. You forget they're even on the belt. Like, how would you even know what time to go back to?
Yeah, that's right.
Paradox. Like, and you're like, oh shit, they're there, and then they're gone again. So just to know that Comstock killed his own wife and tried to kill the scientist that helped
Daisy
him.
Killer.
Yeah. Oh, he did have. No, did he have her? Or did he blame it on her?
I thought he paid her to do it.
Yeah, I think he paid her.
Okay, because I in my mind I kind of thought that maybe he pinned it on her. Create a nice rife amount of racial distrust right at the beginning of his society, right? And then the idea that he would use Elizabeth power to resurrect his dead wife to try to murder you is just even extra shitty of Comstock. And there's so many more things that we could get into, but the idea that you agree with Elizabeth that you have to go back in time to before he was born, and you have to smother him, and you have to basically stop Comstock at its tracks from being born.
So why don't you just go ahead and give his father the reach around and get that sperm out, put in the Kleenex, smother the Kleenex.
Based on what we're going to say next, you can't do that.
It'll all line up.
And then Elizabeth asks you, and you stand before a door that still has the note on it, and she asks you if you're sure that's what has to be done. And you say yeah, and you open the door to go and do this. And here you are at the pool again.
You're back at the lake with the
baptism. With the preacher. And there's not all the people around anymore. And you're like, why am I here? And you turn around and Elizabeth's like, because you said no. But there was a time when you said yes. And whenever you said, I got so much goosebumps. When you said yes, you were born anew. And you chose a new name. And you chose Zachary Comstock. And another Elizabeth comes from the side and says, he is Zachary Comstock. And another Elizabeth comes from the side and says, he is Booker DeWitt. And you look at your Elizabeth and you say,
I'm both.
No, I'm both.
And then they drown you.
And then you let them drown you.
Then you let them drown you. The realization that you are Comstock.
You are Comstock.
You were the bad guy all along.
And then there's bubbles. And then there's not, and then each Elizabeth disappears until only your Elizabeth remains, and then screen goes to black.
Goes to black, never knowing what happens. That you were Zachary Comstock, and everything that terrible that has happened in the game was because of you, and because of you, because you sold your child to yourself, who stole you, and then created a racially horrible society in the clouds. And in some instances tortured your own little girl to make her worse than you in a lot of ways, and created all of this hurt and all of this evil because you tried to be born anew and made the world worse. And then the credits roll with, again, more spiritual music. And then...
So, I'm going to ask a serious question.
Do we say post-credits or you want to wait?
Oh, go ahead.
Post-credit. Game's over. You wake up and it fades back in and you're sitting at a desk. It's October 8th. 1898, and instead of a knock at the door from where the British dude would be to basically tell you to sell your own daughter, you hear a baby cry, and so you yell Anna, and you go to push open the door, and you see a crib, black, game's over. That's it. Bioshock Infinite. Fuck you.
Infinite.
Fuck you. I didn't tell the audience. Fuck you.
That's why it's infinite.
Yes.
Oh.
So, I'm going to ask a question to you guys. First time you beat the game, and obviously this is, for most of us, probably like 9 years ago. When you beat the game the first time,
yeah,
and it was done, you did it. You fucking realized some serious shit. You realized that you're an awful character. You realized that you did nothing good but one thing and allow a bunch of versions of your daughter to kill you.
You just said the name of the podcast.
Ha! I didn't even do that on purpose.
Accidental title.
So, how did you feel? And I'm going to tell you how it felt. Empty. I was fucking...
I didn't feel good
empty.
about it at all.
You feel sad.
I sat there and watched everything. I just sat. Just staring at the TV because I'm like trying...
Like one of those...
Because I was trying to reconcile what I had just experienced. Because at that time, I had never experienced a game that did that to me.
Yeah, and that all those big revelations that happened in the last 20 minutes.
Successions. Yeah.
It in cadence. It sits with you for a long time.
Now, are you even playing the game at this point, or is it all just basically...
You are. You're
Oh,
still
you're
moving.
You're just walking.
You're still moving. But after basically, Comstock lets you... But again, saying that now you know what the thing... Comstock lets you drown him. Which, think about that concept. That you drown Comstock, and then you let Elizabeth drown you before you become Comstock. After you drown him, and then you fight the Zeppelins.
Yeah,
And
that's the final boss
That's the
battle.
final battle, right? And then
Yeah.
Songbird gets zapped in the Rapture.
Everybody has to drown, apparently, in this
Yeah,
game.
there's no combat after that moment throughout the rest of the game, but you're still in control. You're still moving, you know?
And you're still interacting with Elizabeth, which the entire game is grounded on that relationship. Because in as many games as we've played with NPC characters, like, there's never been the level of interaction that you have with Elizabeth, which is why I think, you know, this game has gotten all the acclaim and critical success that it's had.
Sure.
Because it's so unique in that way. And it's just so different.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing what you know about the last few frames of the game, the proper game, the game does do well in those interactions and in those conversations with Elizabeth to use the first-person view well, to its advantage, to have the look, and then you're going back like this, and to look down at your hands, and you come back, and it feels compelling, and very very engaged, and to the credit of Troy Baker and the young lady who does Elizabeth, it's acted so well, and she's so subtle. It's where a lot of video game voiceovers, they've gotten great over the last 10 years, but previous to this, probably the most prolific, and I love it, it's my favorite game of all time, but probably the most prolific voice acting in any game previous to Bioshock Infinite was Skyrim, right? I used to be an adventurer like you until I took an arrow to the knee.
Arrow to the knee.
Right? Like, and that was the most intuitive voice acting. Then we got...
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, then we got Bioshock Infinite, and you're like, oh, fuck, all bets are off.
Wait, so that guy had a wounded knee.
That
There
guy
it
also
is.
had a wounded knee.
Just
Look
like
at
you.
that. Just like...
Maybe
just,
he's Comstock.
Yeah, maybe Booker
Don't
DeWitt
fucking
is
drown me
Mike
after I get out of here. That's all I'm saying.
Oh. But,
You know what you did.
so,
You know,
I mean,
I'm
yeah.
actually happy I didn't play the game because, like, listen, for those of you in the audience, right, I just had fucking story time from Jeff, Herb, and Noah for a solid 60 minutes, and it was fucking riveting. It was awesome.
We appreciate that. It is now, and us telling you that does not diminish
Yeah.
the excellence of the
It
game.
doesn't do it
So.
full service.
And if you listen to this thing and you're like, oh shit, I wanted to play the game, fuck you. Like,
We
what are
told you to
doing?
pause it.
We fucking
Listen,
told you in the first 20 seconds.
The
of
beer we're drinking is about almost 10% alcohol content, so I'm only going to remember half of this.
That's perfect.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Perfect.
You're welcome.
But speaking
so
of perfect,
but
no,
How,
please.
no, how did the ending make you feel?
It reminds me a lot of movies where the main character dies, but he has children of men.
It
I
is-
was going to say it's like a Children of Men moment, isn't
I
it?
thought it was more of a Looper ending. This is very Looper.
It is very Looper,
Close
but
the loop.
But with that, see, Looper, I ruined Looper for myself. Sidebar, where I was like, you're in a cornfield, and there's a nice blanket down, right? And maybe you got some crackers, and you're standing there, and then you zap in, and it's yourself, looking at yourself, and it's like, do you try to suck your own dick to live? Like, I mean, now I gotta think about it.
It's not gay,
Like,
it's masturbation.
that is a great question that we're going to bring up at a later point here in Nothing Good. But Looper, I could, like, the whole rest of that movie, I'm like, this is interesting, this is good. But seriously, though, why wouldn't you try to suck your own dick to get out and get shot in the face? Why are you so mad at yourself? Like, when you were...
Because you already knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, or maybe you didn't. It's past you. Or older you. Maybe older you didn't know, right? And older you's like, come on, we totally get
Yeah,
that.
but older
That's Looper, though.
you knew if you were going to suck the dick or not.
Dear God, let's have... It's like Children of Men. Not like Looper. It's like Children of Men. we're gonna break down Looper and suck in your own dick, and I promise you, sooner rather than later, in an in-depth conversation. Okay?
I really hope that when we do that episode, when we cover Looper, that's your introduction.
Could be. We'll see. But that's my feeling.
Okay.
Is one of not like disappointed, but like you motherfucker, and then silence, sitting in silence. Those great games let you leave you sitting in silence for a while. You're like, I don't want to do anything right now.
There's so much complexity to the ending because your connection to Elizabeth, right? Because I mean, yeah, Booker has his voice lines, but you are Booker. You are enacting his will
you're fully
upon the
invested
game.
at this
Yeah.
point.
And Elizabeth is your daughter, who you wronged. Everything bad that has happened to this poor child is because of you.
Fault.
I mean,
Twice, twofold your fault.
Even when she kills Daisy, right? Like, and she has to, reconcile and come to terms with her murder, which was heavy in itself watching her do that. It's because of you. You did this. You brought her to this point. Your introduction into the world brought so much violence. You know what I mean? So like watching, like him coming to realization that his very existence is causing pain to his daughter, and he just willingly, like Comstock, willingly dies, which is weird. It's some shit.
Which is and it is.
I like how you mentioned just his daughter. Meanwhile, like 80 years from now, they're torturing Manhattan.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Oh, and she's tortured for years by you.
Yeah.
Because of you, a different you. But what really fucks with you is the idea was she murders, and it's a great moment outside of this confusing fucking quantum storyline, because here you are, you have murdered a bunch of people at this point in the game. She never has. She's never taken a
Just
life,
one.
and the game makes you, for a second, like almost like, hey motherfucker, we know you kill a lot of people in video games, but in the same respect, this person just killed their first person. Show some respect. And you're like, oh yeah, you do kill a lot of motherfuckers in video games, and I have killed a lot of motherfuckers, and she hasn't. Like it's a game. It takes you out of it for a second on purpose and in a good way. But then again, too, the Booker that they drown in there, there's not really a way of knowing what Booker duet in any timeline that is, right? Because your brain, we know that your brain, we've cut out some stuff to make it make sense to you, Dave, but like you're getting dragged around by the twins, and you are starting to like fill in the thing they said at the beginning.
Yes.
And in the absence of memories, the brain will start to make up its own,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
You see yourself start to do that, right? So there's not really, you're not really sure exactly where you are in the timeline. So there's dreading you stop it. Then the post credit seems to imply that there is at least a Booker and Anna.
That it reset.
Yeah. And does the game continue on the path that it was always meant to be? As the game implies that it does. That Booker then sells that child, and then we're off to the
Get
races
another
again.
Comstock.
Or does the future... And they never let you do it any different because it's infinite. In which case, then again, too, how do you fucking possibly make a fourth game that follows that concept of that time loop? But knowing that the Bioshock 1 and 2 happened later in this game. So, it's incredible. What also is incredible that cannot be understated about this game, and you were able to probably tell this, even for playing it for 2 hours, is the sound design in this game. The sound design is incredible. The use of gospel music.
That creepy old-time gospel music.
Yep.
So good.
It's like so menacing, but calming at the same time. It's a really weird effect.
Like a dark euphoria kind of thing.
Yeah.
Excellent idea. Somebody woke up one day and they're like, you know what? Let's use gospel music in the most interesting possible way, and it was a beautiful fucking idea. And to have Troy Baker at the end of the game sing this melancholy version of "Will the Circle Be Unbroken," which is a hell of a gospel tune, right? Mm-hmm. It's just like this. It makes sitting there through the credits, realizing that you haven't eaten for 4 hours while you be at the end of this game.
But you had a fresh Pepsi.
But you did. Well, that was the fresh Pepsi was for Lady Comstock, which is well before that. You've already peed out that Pepsi, and you're already
6 hours prior.
Yeah, it was like you're already there. You're already on to thinking, if I just do this one level and do this one fight real fast, then I'll be able to make some pizza rolls, and then 4 hours later the game's over. But it makes sitting there through the credits, trying to wrap your head around everything that happened. That's just such great use.
Yeah, because it's a lot to unpack. Because then, like in that moment, as you're sitting through the calm of the credits, then you start thinking back now that you know how it all unfolds.
Yeah.
You start thinking back about all these moments throughout the game, like, oh shit, that makes a lot more sense now, and it leaves you sort of fulfilled but empty at the same time.
100%.
You know what I mean? It's sort of like this
Taco
weird,
Bell at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
just
Actually,
like that.
That's actually really, really well put.
These are my contributions to the show today, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, I mean,
Dear
really,
sweet
Just
Peruvian
go play
listener.
the fucking game, Dave.
when you think about it, Taco Bell also leaves
I
you
could
sitting
have in
there.
the time I sat here.
Honestly.
Should have got it on the Switch and just been playing it the whole time.
Taco Bell does leave you feeling empty but fulfilled. That is a great idea. And then you fall asleep, and then you wake up, and you're like, "Why could I have? What else could have been done in an alternate timeline? Should I have drowned myself to prevent this future?" Yes.
The last time, this happened to me the other night with Taco Bell, and I felt like I should have drowned myself to prevent that future. My stomach hurt.
What was your go-to? What was your late night go-to at Taco Bell?
You know what? I went with the 2 chicken chalupas.
Chicken chalupas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ballsy.
That's moves. I like the. First of all, let's not get too off the ball. But if we're gonna start talking about our Taco Bell 2 a.m. orders, the cheesy beef burrito, the melty burrito that's on the value menu, I eat it out of spite now because the Frito burrito, the beefy Frito burrito was my shit. The beefy Frito burrito, which was basically the beef burrito, but with Fritos in there.
Yeah.
You do 2 of those, and then whenever today's like a day that they decide that they're gonna have either nacho fries or cheesy fiesta potatoes, and you feel like you hit the lottery when you go. I love Taco Bell, but I also hate Taco Bell. I hate for what it does on your insides, long term. But speaking of long term insides, what is the long term legacy of Bioshock Infinite? Let me start with a thought here, real fast.
Go ahead.
I think it changed the idea of an immersive first person shooter going forward because this game came out for being set up to succeed because it was a Bioshock game. It exceeded all expectations. And for a game coming at the end of the 360's life, I mean, the Xbox One would be out a year later, right? And the PS4 was out 6 months later, right? And so and I think it really changed the idea of what storytelling could be done in that way more than its predecessors ever did.
Yeah, I mean, the story is the biggest component of it. I mean, the way that it unfolds and the twists and the turns and just the complexity of it. I mean, there's hour-long YouTube videos trying to explain the timeline about how you jump from Universe 1 to Universe 1A and what the timeline was, and then you hop back 15 years, and then you hop forward 60 years, and it's like, it's so complex, and I think that somebody fucking thought of that and mapped it all out and was like, I think this makes the most sense. And the fact that as gamers and as fans, we were fully invested in it from the get-go, I think is telling of the Bioshock legacy, even though it, aside from that one snippet in Rapture and a couple of DLC chapters after the fact, is the only tie to the actual first 2 Bioshock games. But I mean, it was critically acclaimed because of the story, because of the visuals, not so much for the gameplay, but the story and the visuals alone. I mean, if you look at the other games that came out that year, we got Grand Theft Auto 5, and we got Super Mario 3D World.
I just want to put out there, Grand Theft Auto 5 came out 9 years prior.
And we're still buying it.
Yes. They're still selling it to us.
They're still putting it on next-gen consoles, which is crazy.
Those 3 games were at the top of the 3 consoles.
I went to Best Buy recently I think Steph and I went to go pick up like a new set of headphones or something.
Yeah.
And she's doing her thing, so I always go check the video games because I like to just see my youth and my history just slowly dissolving in front of me. But every time I go to the video game aisle, except for Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation, there's just fewer and fewer games in those aisles.
For sure.
And Grand Theft Auto, though, is always there.
Yeah.
Always.
It always will be there.
Still there.
It's actually...
Still full price, too. They have not dropped that shit.
And it's so interesting, because that's a good year for games. If those are the 3 top games, that's a good year. That's a technical achievement year.
What was the third one?
Super Mario 3D World.
Which reinvented the platform concept of Mario, and basically bought that Mario enough time for us to get the Odyssey on the Switch.
Yep.
For the people to think it was fresh. It's really good. It's really good. But what's also really good was this journey.
Well, hold on.
What?
I didn't answer your question.
Please do.
Not.
You motherfucker.
Fuck you. Fuck, not you. But the listener, fuck you.
Okay.
You thought I was... Fuck you. Okay. Keep going on.
Wait, so Go ahead. I will put a cap on this afterwards.
Okay.
An observation I have made.
Okay.
As
so
we have
the
gone
question
into
is
season
what
2.
I think the legacy or what's lasting effect
Oh, please.
will be. I think it is. God, not to be super fucking dramatic about it, but goddamn, like it's a marvel in gaming, like what it did.
We'll never get another story like that because
Well, I'll be waiting
everything
for
that
it.
we get close, they're gonna be like, oh, it's just fucking infinite
Listen,
over again.
The use, and you said like the first person camera view, like the connection you had with this character, you never control her. You don't do anything. You really, I mean, you point at some things and she can open a tear, maybe something like that, but that's about as far as it goes. But she's your companion throughout most of the game, and it makes every decision at the end. The realization that's the thing that stays with me the most. Playing it again and have that feeling, that same feeling, like fuck, I deserve this.
Yeah.
I love my daughter so much that I have to like not live for her to be safe, for her to be happy.
You have to die twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the lasting
Awesome.
impression, its legacy is Elizabeth. It has
Agreed.
never been done.
She is one of the greatest non-playable video game characters ever.
Easy.
Nothing since has come close,
No.
realistically, because even if you have a character that, like, The Last of Us, I mean, shit, I'm not trying to touch The Last of Us, obviously.
No.
The game's a fucking marvel in itself, too.
Yes.
But you control these characters at certain points, right? There's a connection that you have with Elizabeth. She is the story. She is the focal point, and her role continuously changes throughout the game, and your perspective, along with the main characters, changes throughout the game, and very few games I've ever played have afforded me the ability to do that.
Yeah.
And that in itself means that it'll always be on my top 10.
Yeah, it's masterfully done.
She's in this game because of your actions.
Yeah.
And her role in this game gets modified because of your actions. But she, at the very last moment in the game, is the one who basically is like, I'm going to do one thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to drown the fuck out of you.
Sorry,
right.
Dad.
Roll credits, Dad.
Yeah.
Oh, it's awesome.
But yeah, that's how I feel.
What was the thing you wanted to...
Well, have you
Unleash the
guys?
cap.
Do you have anything else you want to add to that, Jeff? I
No.
don't want to get too far off topic because
No,
I'm going
go
to take
ahead.
in a different direction. Now, have you guys noticed that like we're in season 2 of Nothing Good, right? And in season 1, Noah Brown had a very definitive "fuck you." It was aggressive. It was angry. It was sexy. You know?
Like an early DeWitt.
It was physical. Noah got a running start into it. He put his body into it.
It's true. I pulled something.
It was dare I say primal. It was a fuck you. But as we moved into season 2, it's a little bit more playful now. The aggression has gone away. It's not primal, it's not physical. It's light. It's airy. It represents the season. Fuck you.
That's well put. I guess it's just really, it's like...
Is there a reason for the change as
Well-
we move through the season? Is this something we get to look forward to season by season of Nothing Good, where the fuck you is always going to be just a tad more personality, or a little bit less, a little bit more colorful, a little bit less personal? I don't know. Tell us, Noah. Where are we going with this?
I guess I would say if you're trying to box in
Is there
my
fuck
ability...
you infinite?
I would say maybe, but trying to box it in makes me want to go, fuck you. Like, don't limit my fuck yous. I guess the great question, if you ask an artist who's promoting their current new album, what is different about this? Where have you taken it? They're going to give you some hyperbole bullshit, but the best way to ask them is 10 years after the fact. Like, what the fuck was wrong with you? What were you going through at that time? Like, oh yeah, I was really into like gas station boner pills at that time, so I don't even know what the fuck I was writing. And here we are. So right now, my fuck yous, they're let them be, let them evolve. Will they always change? Of course, because I myself as a person am always changing, just like we as people.
Nobody paints an artist into a corner.
No,
they have to let it. He has to have a canvas in which to paint.
And the only person I hope that never changes is the dear, sweet, succulent listener of this podcast. Never change, you beautiful motherfucker. Come back here each and every time. Let us all inside you. Same time, one after the other. We could run a train. We can run an audio train on you. Or, you know what? They say that if you have enough bendable knees, you can make enough holes. Let's just do it. Let's just all, at the same time, let's all get a running start from 4 different corners of the room. First one there gets to call shotgun. He gets to ride in a seat of their choice. Last one there takes the needful. Let's do it. All right. And thank you for letting us inside you, deep inside you. Yes.
I have one last parting word for the listeners.
Hmm.
There's always a lighthouse. There's always a man. There's always a city. There's always nothing good.